everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Now podcast. I'm your host Ellis Hendry, and this week I'm going to be discussing the topic of agenda setting in sport. So, let's get into it. Firstly, let's define agenda setting. Well, according to Bacombs and Valenzuela, agenda setting is the role of news media in identifying key issues and topics, and subsequently influencing the popularity and importance of those issues on the public agenda. They go on to say that agenda setting is not about persuasion, but instead about selecting certain topics the media influence what we think about. This agenda setting most commonly derives from subscribing to merely one media source to gain information. And through doing this, we gain an unconscious bias of attitudes towards athletes and sports teams. The first topic I will discuss is the treatment of Marcus Rashford in the media. We are all aware of the horrendous racial abuse that himself, Saka and Sancho received after missing their penalties in the Euro 2020 final, and we saw a clear targeting and agenda against their ethnicity on social media. However, after looking into data from broadcasters a couple years after the tournament, he has been praised for his efforts on and off the pitch in order to reconcile his reputation across the nation. The images and words chosen by journalists have the power to influence how audiences interpret and evaluate topics. And one topic that provided mixed opinions in the media was when Rashford helped to tackle child food poverty in the UK. Looking at the article on the screen, language used by Sky Sports such as demanding action, insists and vowed to describe Rashford's efforts shape him in a good light. This has the power to influence people's opinion of him and disregards any mention of his race and ethnicity to create a positive agenda. BT Sport launched the BT Hope United campaign to tackle the issue of online hate in football, with Rashford being an ambassador to educate people around the topic of diversity, and especially the younger generation who see the England star as such a role model. This goes to show how the media can have a massive influence on moulding fans' perception on athletes in a positive way, and has certainly influenced the agenda in sports coverage. Race has been one of the most important areas of inquiry in the field of sport and mass media, and Rashford is an example of how athletes can use their platform to drive change, regardless of race. By him raising these social issues, the media therefore follows suit. The second athlete we're going to discuss is Emma Raducanu. Her rise to fame has captured huge media attention, being a young British female dominating the world stage. In the context of agenda setting, it's possible that the media could focus on aspects of Raducanu's background, such as her ethnicity, with her father being Romanian and her mother being Chinese, and also being born in Canada. This could change the public's perception of her Britishness and overshadow her sporting achievements and create a false, unjust narrative. However, despite there being a few mentions of her parents in the Daily Mirror Sport, the media have taken a natural liking to her after her inspiring journeys through Wimbledon and the US Open, which she went on to win in 2021. This is evident through the representation of language used to describe her. According to Hall, language is a privileged medium in which we make sense of things and meanings are produced. So, with the Daily Mirror, BT Sport and Sky Sports describing Raducanu as a national treasure, amazing and sensational, they are creating a positive narrative for her. However, evidence of negative agenda setting towards Raducanu is the use of the term British. After examining data and comparing the broadcasters, in most articles on Raducanu from BT Sport and Sky Sports, they pick up on her Britishness by referring to her as British number one Emma Raducanu or British teenager Emma Raducanu. Although it's positive to recognise her achievements for her country, acknowledging her British connection in many articles could be seen as an agenda against her rooted ethnicity. Alternatively, the Daily Mirror Sport rarely refers to Raducanu as British to protect this agenda against her ethnicity. This has the influence to make people make a judgment of her based on her as an athlete and not purely a follower of her for being under the British umbrella. The third athlete that has caused controversy amongst the media is transgender MMA fighter Alana McLaughlin. When it comes to representation in the media, there is no mention of McLaughlin in leading broadcasters such as Sky and BT Sports. The Daily Mirror is the only one to shed light on her kickstarting her career. For transgender athletes, there are more barriers for participation in sport, which also means more discrimination. There is little mention of McLaughlin amongst other broadcasters, which highlights this agenda against transgender athletes, especially in sports such as MMA, where she is paving the way for others. It's important to pick up, though, that the theme of transgender athletes in sport certainly is spoken about, however, in a negative tone. Many instances include established athletes and celebrities giving their opinion on whether they should be able to compete in their sport. For example, the Daily Mirror Sport publishing articles on Boris Johnson's stance on the issue, as well as World Athletics President Lord Sebastian Coe backing the stance for transgender athletes to be banned from track and field events. This creates an agenda from the media towards transgender athletes, as they are much more focused on creating controversy on the topic and getting comments from celebrities which will create conversation instead of reporting on their achievements. Therefore, agenda setting in sport is prevalent, with the media playing a key role in persuading people to make a judgment based on what they publish as well as what they omit. According to Bruce, media discourses might not have the power to shape what we think, but it does in relation to what we think about. Therefore, it is important for people to make their own judgment on athletes based on purely their sporting achievements and who they are as a person, and not based on their race, ethnicity and gender. Well, that concludes this week's podcast on agenda setting. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.